Good morning, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. And first of all, let me thank the Lahore Center for Peace and Peace Research and the Institute of Strategic Thinking for inviting me and not forgetting the whole of South Asia in this crucial issue that we are deliberating since yesterday. If you know the news in Sri Lanka, just few days ago, we appointed a new president in Sri Lanka. And one of the first speeches that he delivered, he mentioned about Sri Lanka's future foreign policy. And he mentioned two factors: neutrality in power rivalry and not being sucked into the great power politics. So my speech, coming from a small country in South Asia, would be towing the same line: neutrality and not getting sucked into the major power game. Ladies and gentlemen, since yesterday morning, we have been hearing a great deal about the Kashmir turmoil. We have heard the versions from the Kashmiris, from the Pakistan, from the international community, from the media, and therefore, I will not talk too much on Kashmir, but I will talk about the South Asian region, where tens of millions of people are living. And as we heard even little while ago, they are in danger because of this situation in Kashmir. Ladies and gentlemen, South Asia is not a harmonious region. Although in the history we were very well connected across the ocean, right now we are not enjoying a great deal of peace. And if one thing is common to the South Asian continent, that is the Indian Ocean. Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, the common denominator is the ocean. The economic integration of South Asia is less than 5% of the combined GDP, which is considered a very low figure in the world affairs today. Why so? Mainly due to lack of quality infrastructure and quality foreign direct investment, whether it is in the maritime domain, air travel, and hinterland connectivity. The World Bank Group released a report in 2018, and they said from 2016 to 2030, this region needs more than $460 billion for development of infrastructure. If we don't get it, we are going to miss the sustainable development goals by 2030. Unfortunately, we don't have a conducive environment for foreign direct investment to come to this region. Another debacle in South Asian region is most of the countries are not free to make decisions based on economics. The security paradox, balancing strategic aspirations of major powers, are a priority before thinking of the self-prosperity or development. Now, Indian Ocean today has become heavily militarized, heavily nuclearized, and a battleground for major power rivalry. This situation has impacted heavily on the maritime security domain. We all know that the Indian Ocean is the energy superhighway for the world. 72% of world oil, 50% of world containers, 35% of world bulk cargo are transported across the waters of the Indian Ocean. If the maritime commerce in the Indian Ocean is interrupted, that would mean the world economy would collapse. Now, Sri Lanka is a country which has suffered due to terrorism for 3 decades. And we know the suffering of terror, suffering of violence, and suffering of a long-drawn campaign. And we also have seen the spread of terror from the land into the ocean. Now, therefore, the conflict, what we are talking about, one day, unless it is resolved, can have ramification in the ocean as well. Few words about regional cooperation in SAARC or South Asia is near zero. We have not been able to have a summit meeting of SAARC's head of the states for the last 3 years. We are supposed to be having the meeting in Islamabad, but it never came to have a meeting. And therefore, we don't have a platform to discuss contentious bilateral issues. And that is why we have to depend on outside organization to talk about our internal matters. The elephant in the room in this big equation is undoubtedly China. However, Chinese economic development assistance to countries like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Maldives, Nepal, Bangladesh are seen with suspicion. Many countries in the West and India do not see them as economic opportunities, but Chinese strategic objectives to strangulate India. The China-Pakistan economic corridor and the Gwadar port are also seen as part of this great power rivalry. Then the all-weather friendship between China and Pakistan is also not seen in a very good context. China's entry into the Indian Ocean has given rise to many strategic security initiatives for the region. We have America's Indo-Pacific strategy. We have Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy. We have European Union's new focus to the Indian Ocean. We have Australia's second sea strategy. And we have India's Sagar. Now, Sagar in Hindi means the ocean, but it has a meaning, security and growth for all in the region. Are all these strategies to protect the Indian Ocean? The answer is no. Most of these strategies are to counter the rising China. Together with the strategic initiatives, there are connectivity initiatives. There is Belt and Road Initiative by China. There is Asia-Africa Growth Corridor by Japan and India. There is Trilateral Partnership for Infrastructure Development by America, Japan, and Australia. Are they working for the betterment of the Indian Ocean region? The answer is no. They are working in competition. Well, Kashmir issue is a very complex one. We have been hearing from yesterday. The violence and rhetoric about violence is very much prevalent in the Kashmir issue. This is a very complex issue. It's a protracted issue. And I believe it has now come to a mutually hurting stalemate. So what is the outcome that we are hoping for? The Pakistan objectives, the Indian objectives, people of Kashmir objectives, are they the same, or are they in 3 different, or at least in 2 different directions? We do not see a middle ground in the Kashmir issue, and this conflict will go on and on. Can there be a political solution? Is there a political will to find a solution is the question. The military solution, I think, may not be acceptable because you are risking the lives of people. And armed violence and terrorism is not also the answer to resolve the matters for Kashmir people. I believe the rule of law and re-establishing the normalcy or the normal life of Kashmir people is very important. Now, meantime, India repealed the Article 370 and Article 335A. Now, that virtually has eliminated a one country, two systems in the Indian context. And now, there is no special privileges to Kashmir. And then that is giving rise to demography imbalance and more violence to come. And India's opposition to China-Pakistan economic corridor can also be seen through repealing the Article 370. Now, India and Pakistan has gone to war on at least 4 occasions, and 2 out of the major 3 wars were fought on the Kashmir issue. And ladies and gentlemen, both the countries are nuclear armed. So there is a serious concern about the military, about a possible military confrontation in the region. This region is heavily militarized and heavily nuclearized. And both sides to this issue are accusing each other of cross-border violence, cross-border terrorism, and human rights violations of unprecedented scale. Well, what are the security concerns from South Asia? Now, we heard a little while ago how this issue can be a threat to world peace. The United States identify South Asia as epicenter of terrorism and epicenter of religious extremism. This impact on the regional stability. We need to prevent nuclear proliferation at any cost. We need to minimize the potential of a nuclear war. The nuclear security nexus between India and Pakistan remain uncertain. There is no mutually assured destruction concept in this game, because we all know if you use a nuclear weapon, it's not you're only annihilating your enemy, you are destroying you and large number of people around the conflict. Now, the Nuclear Material Security Index released by the USA, they talk about possession of nuclear materials of 25 countries, and Pakistan is at the 22nd place and India is at 23rd place. When you talk about security and control measures of nuclear arsenal, is it satisfactory? Are they following the global norms? Do they have domestic capacity and commitment to control the first use of this nuclear arsenal? These are the questions that we need to answer. However, there is an urgent need to diffuse the military situation in this region. When you talk about stability index paradox, they talk about 3 things: that both the sides or the both parties should be, are they rational actors? That the side which threatens first use has unambiguous red lines to prevent accidental tripping of nuclear threshold. And the third one is that there is mutual understanding between the actors so as to minimize chances of miscommunication or misinterpretation. When you look at the 3 indexes, I think only the first one I see very clearly, that both the players, Pakistan and India, are rational actors. The other 2, I'm not 100% sure where we stand. To complicate the matters in the Indian Ocean and in South Asia, the presence of non-state actors are very much prevalent, either in the form of terrorists, pirates, or illegal criminals at sea. The presence of non-state actor, in fact, complicate the matters between the 2 states. So what can we do? The final part of the role of the international community. Yesterday we heard the president of Azad Kashmir saying, clouds of war becoming darker and thicker. And I have 3 simple proposition to resolve this problem, but I know the practical implementation will not be that easy. Number 1 is referring to His Excellency, the Iranian ambassador. When you mentioned the first point, I saw many heads in the audience going, no, 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 it cannot be done. But still, I would place that as my top point, that is formalizing the line of control and accepting that as an international border. That's my point number 1, but I know there will be many arguments against that. Then second point, India to renounce its claims to Pakistan-administered Kashmir. And the third point, Pakistan to renounce its claim to Indian-administered Kashmir. Very three simple points. But I know in a protracted conflict, removing materials which can ignite fire is extremely difficult. But unless you remove these materials which can cause fire, the potential for fire is never going to go away. And you cannot even resolve the conflict, let alone transforming the conflict into long-lasting peace. And we need more confidence-building measures. And I hope 71 years we have not resolved this. You and your fathers have gone through this. Are we going to leave it to the next generations to come and let the suffering continue? I think that is the question I like to pose at the end. And thank you very much.